Welcome to Slice Serve, a new tennis podcast by tennis nerds for wannabe tennis nerds. This is your place to satisfy your curiosity and leave feeling just a little bit smarter and appreciative of this game that we all love. Let's get started. How are things with you, Raghu? What's going on?
I've been keeping a watch on some of the tournaments that are going on right now. One of them is Houston.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't know it's a clay court tournament. And I was listening to another podcast, and one of the podcaster was interviewing a guest, and he was a director of an ATP tournament, and he was saying one of the best tournaments that he would like to visit himself is the Houston one. That reminded me back a long time ago when I used to live in Houston. The Houston Clay Court Tournament was one of the marquee events on the tennis calendar around that area. I was surprised that it's actually a clay court tournament.
Yeah.
Bang in early April. Very unusual for the U.S. Tennis circuit.
That's right. And I had never paid attention to these things, but yeah, just a few years back, I also realized exactly the same thing you said. So that we have clay courts in the U.S. and the women's one in Charleston, which is actually like an ATP, like a 500 or women's 500 WTA 500 is like green clay. I don't even know what makes that clay green. It just sounds yucky to me, but that's cool that we have great clay courts. Also, I don't know if you saw this, but there was an official post by the ATP prior to next week's Monte Carlo Masters out in like Monaco, the 1,000 level tournament, about changes that they're experimenting with for the men's doubles. Did you see that?
Yeah, something about these going to use a timer.
Right. They're going to use a timer. That's right, and then they're going to use lesser time during changeovers. And this is an interesting one. I thought I didn't realize they were thinking about these things. They're reserving 16 out of the 32 spots in the tournament seedings for doubles teams formed by singles players, as opposed to doubles specialist teams. So to kind of like make things more interesting, so like famous players will show up more. So they're trying all these different things to increase the spread of doubles as an event compared to singles.
I'm all for it. I think doubles is such a fun event to watch. I think when you watch in person, it's incredibly fast, and every moment is a ton of fun watching it. So I love
I agree with you. Actually, in fact, these things that they're introducing are going to make it even faster. So I don't know. This feels like it's going to be crazy. So I don't know. We'll see. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, no, that's great. And also, I heard that the Saudi Arabia's public investment fund are going to sponsor the WTA end of the season tournament.
Oh, that's right.
But they put huge prize money on it.
Yes.
I believe it's the highest, even beating last year's one in Beijing.
Wow.
And so, lots of money, which is good for tennis.
Yes.
And from that angle, and hopefully it's to bring more tennis to Asia.
Yeah, this is a really complicated issue. I would love to dig into this. We should do a slice on this, Raghu, for sure. Yes. Nice. Yeah, I think there's a lot of concern around quote sports washing and all that, but nobody says these things out loud because Saudi Arabia dangles giant sums of money as well. So that does kind of color things.
Yeah, there's definitely some criticism out there, but then there's also another opinion on the other side of the court. So it'd be worth looking at that more closely to see what's going on. All right, so yeah, it started the clay court season across the world, I guess, and yeah, so we're excited to see. So another sort of related note is Rafa has told in the past that this is his last year.
Yeah.
And he pulled out of is it Monte Carlo, one of the tournaments coming up. So I don't know how many of these clay court tournaments he's going to play. I think he won Monte Carlo like 11 times or something.
Yeah, crazy.
And so for all those Rafa fans, this is the last year to watch him
That's
play.
right. That's right.
I don't. Yeah. So
And the one thing I'll say about the clay court season now is new Yannick Sinner with his crazy game style now. He was a former skier that you may not know already. Right? He was a championship skier as a junior. I just want to watch him slide around a court like he's skiing. It's just it's quite something to watch.
it's that's really good to know. There's also like this time when all the Spanish and South Americans will show up in the clay court tournament. This is the time when they shine. So it's kind of interesting how when you go from hard court to clay courts, a new set of players will emerge, and some of them actually would not even have played much of the hard court tournaments.
Yeah.
They would probably practicing training to get for this clay court season, and they all show up, and it's crazy. I love clay courts, so we'll see what happens this year.
Awesome.
All right, so let's get on to our slice. We're excited.
That's right.
Ravi.
Yeah. So for our second ever episode, or is this our third? Well, not our first. We're gonna start off and cover this is like our new kind of slice, and we're gonna call this the stats slice. So we all love stats, don't we? Like in the spirit of making you all feel more intelligent and informed. We want to occasionally introduce a really cool tennis-related statistic every now and then as part of our podcast, and we want to unpack the story behind that. So welcome to our first ever stat slice. So Raghu, what's our first ever stat? Let's go.
All right, I'm excited here to talk about our inaugural stat slice. What we'll do is we'll review the top 10 men's players with the most aces versus the top 10 men's players versus most double faults in 2023. So these are polar opposite stats. We picked it very intentionally. It's like the good versus the ugly. You never want to be on the other side, if you will. We will share our thoughts on both the interesting and also puzzling observations as to who are these folks who are doing amazingly well with these aces, but also would not want to be in the other bucket.
I know which bucket I'm in. This might actually be the only list I'm actually on.
You are going to be a contender
Yes.
there, Ravi, if you were to
double faults.
get ranked. So we're not going to go through all the top 10 players, but what we'll do is we'll pick players that are in the top 30, who ended up in the top 30 at the end of 2023, who are sitting in these two lists, and just kind of like look at them to see like, why, and sort of like take our expert opinion on it, right? So if you look at the aces, Hubert Hurkacz is the top player with almost 800 aces.
Oh my
last year.
god. 800?
Yeah, so 800 free points or uncontested
Wow.
points, if you will.
He does have an incredible serve action. It looks like he's just practicing. I don't know. Have you watched his serve? Like he's just like, it looks casual to me, and it just pounds it down every single time. That's awesome.
He seems like he's built for hitting
Yes.
aces. The way I look at his physical frame. And if you just look at like the 10th player in that list, it drops more than half. It's Popyrin at 336. So less than half of the aces. So if you look at, as you go down beyond the 10th player, it's going to drop even probably even more. But those are the guys on top of it. The first guy, Hurkacz at almost 800, and Popyrin sitting at less than half of that. On the other side, if you look at double faults, Bublik is at almost 300 double faults.
Oh my! Wait, this is for the year of 2022, 23. Oh
Last
my!
year. That's almost the same number of aces that Popyrin hit. So it's
Wow,
kind of like
okay.
funny in some ways, but I'm sure like Bublik is not feeling great about it. And if you go down to the list, if you look at the bottom, like the 10th person in that top 10 list is FAA Felix at 140, so about half of Bublik's.
I see.
Yeah, so once you go beyond 10, they're not going to focus
You know,
on a lot of double faults.
This is interesting you bring this up because Felix has had a rough year. in 2023. So I do wonder if there's a correlation to his performance and his serve performance here. What do you
Yeah,
think?
no, that's a great point. I think yeah, last year was a down year compared to his 2022, and so he's still working his way back up, if you will. So this is definitely did not help his cause. Um, so let's look at more closely here. So if you look at folks in the top 30 who are in the top 10 aces bucket, you have Harkach at the top, you have Fritz, Rublev, and Zverev. And you want to look at the folks with double faults, in the top 10 double faults. It's Runa and Dimitrov.
Oh, oh no,
Interestingly,
Grigor's on that list. That
yeah,
makes me sad.
you wouldn't think so. Like, he's a great server. But and the folks who are sitting in both aces and double faults, and bad like aces, like top 10 aces, top 10 double faults are Bublik, Medvedev, which is really surprised me, and Griekspoor. We'll talk more about Griekspoor. So they're in both the buckets.
That's really
So
interesting.
they're hitting a ton of aces, ton of
I have
double
to
faults.
say, I'm not super surprised by finding Bublik in both the lists because yeah, he does have a very unique game style, and his serves are pretty lethal when he serves the aces. I love his serve motion. I am curious how many aces were actually underarm serves because he's also something occurred to me about double faults. I'm going to argue that Dimitrov looks best even when he's double faulting. So I think he has the best looking double faults.
You're saying he's just a good
He's
looking
just
player.
well, that is also true, but I think his game also looks quite amazing, and he has Serena Williams as a good friend who apparently was texting during the finals or before the finals at Miami. Yeah, so surprising, but cool. Yeah, go on. This is very interesting.
Yeah, so I thought like Bublik, he's not like the tallest of the guys, and him trying to hit a ton of aces and then getting a ton of double faults, it's maybe makes sense. He's just trying to like push it, push more than typically what players of his size do, and he's just getting both sides. He's getting a bunch of aces, also getting a few double faults to go along with it. So that may be sort of what's going on. Just looking at only those two.
That's also an interesting point. I think now that I think about it, to your point, I think Medvedev also does have a interesting sort of up and down type of game style, and I've noticed that maybe is his mental game or what, but at very critical points I see that he suddenly starts double faulting very unexpectedly, or the inverse. I've also noticed, like suddenly out of the blue just starts acing. So I'm not sure what to make of that. But also on another note, like, have you seen those inflatable dolls in like tire stores or car dealerships? They're flailing about. Like every time I see Medvedev, he reminds me of one of those things. He's just flopping about.
He just I see a lot of 5-setters or long matches with Medvedev. He starts off slow, and then before you think he's done, he comes back and makes his amazing rally. He's got his really unique, different style of like serve, and so he's just like in the game. So maybe he's just like hitting aces and then hitting a few double faults along the way. So he's a unique guy for sure. So we'll look at a little bit of the outcomes, right? Okay, so of course we're only taking the lens of the aces and double faults here. There's lots of other parts of the game, but let's just say there's only two things that are interesting here from this perspective. Looking at the outcomes, that's basically rankings, and then we'll see what actually happened with these guys compared to 2022. So the folks who actually moved up in the rankings was Medvedev. So he's the guy who was a top 10 both aces and double faults in 23, but he moved up from 7th in 22 to 3rd in 23, which is a big jump. I would argue that it's a worthwhile investment in both the aces and double faults for him.
So you're saying he should start training for double faults?
If he's going to get a few more aces, well, why not? As long as he keeps winning those cheap points.
I can coach him. On the double faults. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's yeah, he's played incredibly well last year, and I'm sure the other parts of the game has improved a lot. But certainly these two have pieces have played at all at some level. And sometimes maybe Doubtfall just confuses the opponent with everything that Medvedev does. How quirky he looks on the court, he's just like confusing the guy
Well, you,
out.
you
Like
joke
getting
about that, I think, but you're probably right that there's some little bit of like a tactic in there, right? Because I have seen like there's been other analysts have kind of commented on like how he starts to like just flail about, throw a tantrum on the court like at a critical point, and sort of just upsets the rhythm of the other person. So yeah, I don't know. That might even be a tactic.
Yeah, it could be anything to throw off the
I'll
opponent
say
when you're down two
that
sets.
is very, very ballsy if he's actually planning a double fall. I would. He's amazing if that ends up being true.
Maybe he's just unfazed.
Yeah.
He's just like, okay, I'm gonna throw a double fault,
That's
whatever,
amazing.
and move on, hit a couple aces. That's just gonna confuse the
Mind
opponent.
games, right? Yeah.
Yeah, mind games. He does talk about, he just point to his head a lot during those comebacks.
That's true. I always thought he meant I'm losing it.
Then you have Greek Spoor, who actually jumped massively from 96th in 2022 to 23
Oh wow.
in 2023. So in like 1 year, he jumped a ton of spots. You got to give a bunch of credit to his serves, and he's the top aces. There's something going on there. But he also hit ace double faults too. But it's got to be like the aces of like, you know, he certainly took advantage of it, and he's right there, just at the cusp of 20. At least end of 23, he was in the right outside the 20.
That's incredible. That's quite a climb, actually, right? Yeah, to get it into the top 30 from like 96.
Yeah, it's very unusual. It doesn't happen in over a period of just 1 year, but I think he had a great year last year. So kudos to both aces and double faults for him. I don't know if he's actually trying to confuse opponents. He's just trying to win them with aces. That's, I think, what he's doing. He's just trying to take them off the court. And one of your favorite players, Dimitrov, also jumped from 28 to 14th.
Yeah, baby.
So even though he was, I don't know how many aces he's had, but certainly like he had a ton of, like he had quite a few double faults. Still,
Yeah.
He actually jumped in the top 15. So what do you make of that?
Yeah, he's definitely been working on his game off late. As a lot of commentary about that now that this year he was quite successful. He won a title in Brisbane and got to the finals in Miami with his new coach. So I think it's like several years of hard work that he's been working on, and I'm going to guess that he's been working on his serve as well. So all the results are showing. Yeah, he does have an amazing serve as well.
He does. And maybe he doesn't have to hit as many aces, but he may be winning a high percentage of first serve points with his first serve. So that may be what's going on. But yeah, I love his game too, and so it's good to see that and see him back in the top 20. So on the other side, flip side, the guys who could not benefit from this, Fritz actually dropped from 9th through 10th. So Fritz is one of those guys who he has the second highest number of aces after hard catch. But it did not do him enough favors, but he still dropped just one.
Interesting.
It may be my thought is like it's got to do with other parts of his game. Maybe his grounds, maybe his like baseline game. It could just be he's winning close points. I do notice that he tend to lose in early rounds in a bunch of in many tournaments. So maybe he needs to get pumped up for the big tournaments to actually win, and so against big guys. So he may not be as motivated and gives up some cheap points. At least that's sort of my theory.
Yeah, I almost have the inverse theory. So maybe the rest of his game perhaps has dropped in level quite a bit, and his serves are what are actually keeping him still in the top 10. Well, I think this year he's no longer in the top 10. Yeah.
That could be also be true. I think it just shows you that getting the top 20 is not, it's not easy, but staying top 10 is super difficult. You'll see people fall out just for because the competition is so intense among those guys. Bublik actually had made no difference. He just started 32nd and ended up at 32nd. And end of 2023 though. Now he's much higher. He's in the top, I think 5 or 6, sixth rank right now. And so it's incredible. Like I guess he's invested in both aces and also had to pay with double faults in 23. Rankings not much of a difference, but this year 2024 certainly he's zoomed up, and so it's maybe there's something there, maybe there's a bigger story, but my sense is like he'll keep hitting those aces, paying down with some double faults, and as long as he's going up the way he's doing right now, he'll be a happy man.
You know, with Bublik, the few games of his that I've watched, I also love watching him. He does take risks with his second serve quite a bit. He amps up the speed of the second serve frequently, and obviously when they get in, he's I wonder, you know, it'd be great to dig in later into the stats of like second serve aces, like how many aces are on the second serve, because I've seen him do that because he just takes that chance, and that might be why he has so many double faults too.
Yeah, I do stand corrected on one thing, but it's not Bublik, it's Rublev who's actually in the top 10. So Bublik is still, I think he's got work to do.
Yes.
But so it's fascinating as we kind of look down upon all this, like these two stats, aces and double faults, and how it's impacted, who's benefited, who has not. It's just like one lens, if you will, at looking at these top players. We know aces play a big role in winning easy points. It's not really easy, but it does take the pressure off of them, especially in a tight game. Double faults are uncommon, but do happen, as we see above. We just don't observe it as closely, unless you're actually playing the game, like you and me, Ravi.
That's right.
But it's fascinating to see how even these top players are using aces as a weapon, and maybe double faults as also a tactic to get that extra edge and then improve their performance and win those close games.
Yeah. It just occurred to me, I think they term these free points, right? So it's like aces are free points, but they're for you, and double faults are free points, but they're for the opponent. So
yeah, for sure. Wow. So maybe you look at aces and double faults in a very different lens, as when you're seeing these top players, as well as when you're actually being out there on the court, trying to improve your game, win those the tough matches out there.
I need to check with my tax consultant if all the free points I give away count as charitable donations.
Hey, just in time, you got
it's tax season. I should check. Awesome.
All right, now what's not to like a little bit about a little silliness here. We can all have some fun. That's what Sliced Serve podcast is all about. Let's have some fun with stats. Why not? Today we're introducing a brand new, never ever seen or heard, never invented before concept called.
Ooh, what is this?
Silly stat. Our in-depth research, we spent a lot of time thinking about this, tells us absolutely nothing insightful about this. But here we go. Silly stat brought to you by our very own Ravi.
Yeah, baby. So I should. Thanks, Raghu. I think this took quite a bit of work. I mean, I must have spent at least 17 seconds on this statistic. But I'll start. Okay, here we go. It's 6,945. What is this number, Raghu? Can you guess? What is this number?
That seems very precise to me and kind of rounded. But wait, what? Let me think. I'm thinking a little deeply here.
Yes. Take your time, because
I'm confused.
you need to spend quite a bit of time. This is a very complex stat.
I'm confused. So you want me to guess the question? This is you're throwing a curveball here, or underarms. smash.
Yes.
It's not supposed to work
This
this
is an
way.
underarm smash, Raghu. Go get it.
How about your lifetime double fall
Oh
count?
God. No, I think that's more than this number. So yeah, I'm on that list. I know you were gracious and didn't include me when you were covering that stat. Okay. All right. Do you want to know what it is?
I'm
Yes,
curious.
yes. Okay. It is the number of bees that attended the Zverev versus Alcaraz Indian Wells quarterfinals. Did you know what this was about? Like, you remember hearing about this? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess he
Yeah.
was getting stung by someone who's not a tennis player.
That's right. There was a lot of bee puns going around, but yeah, so there was this one game, and there were like, and Alcaraz was suddenly attacked by one bee, and then pretty soon there was this giant swarm, and credit to him, he sort of swatted them and walked away. I would have probably screamed like a 3-year-old and run away and probably soiled my pants. But it was quite something, quite a spectacle. So yeah, I'll spare you all the bee puns. There were quite a bit of them, but I do think this was a sting operation. To check on Alcaraz's mental strength.
I think maybe Zverev was involved in this and funded this operation.
Yes,
the secret
I think
covert operation.
we should do some real research to figure out if that was true. Yeah, but yeah, this was a tough one to find, this stat, Raghu. So hope you appreciated it.
It was just incredible that we had to land on that number.
Yeah, it took me all that time to actually went frame by frame counting all the bees. Yeah, so next time I'll probably use AI for this.
I wonder what will come up with next time
Yes,
around. The
yes.
silly stat, Ravi.
Yeah, even deeper. Don't worry. Yeah. All right, folks.
Hey, this was fun. Thanks to each one of you for joining. It's been a pleasure delivering this podcast, this stats slice.
Yeah, and
we'll be doing more stats in the future.
that's right. And that brings us to the end of another episode. We got all the way through with this slice. Awesome. And a reminder to our listeners, this podcast is sponsored by absolutely no one. Yeah, we have no sponsors, of course. But if you are a local tennis club, especially if you have clay courts or tennis merchandise, or if you're Rafa actually looking to promote your academy, I think you should do more of that, Rafa, because I don't know, dude. I've been hanging out all over in Seattle and I don't see a single ad for your academy. So I do think you should do a slightly better job. But
he needs some money. He's retiring now.
that's right. So please get in touch with us at hello@sliceserve.com. Yeah, we are shameless and we will take any amount of money. So,
Right.
all right. So that brings us to the end of this slice. Thank you all. Hey, listeners. This is Slice Serve, a new tennis podcast by tennis nerds for wannabe tennis nerds. If you like this slice, which is our word for episodes, please subscribe to Slice Serve in your favorite podcast app. And if you especially know others who would enjoy this content, please consider spreading the word. We are at the Slice Serve on YouTube, X, and Instagram. And on the web, you can find us at www.sliceserve.com, where you'll find links to all our slices, but you cannot eat them. Until next time.